Half the Truth, Chapter 5, The Triangle.
Yuna doesn't sit in Cole's corner. I didn't expect her to. She's not a corner person. She's a center-of-the-room person who happens to want nothing to do with anyone in the room. A contradiction that she resolves by sitting wherever she wants and radiating enough don't-touch-me energy to keep a 3-foot perimeter clear on all sides. But she's aware of us. I can see it in her aura. A thin filament of attention that stretches from wherever she is to wherever Cole and I are, monitoring without engaging. She watches us the way a sentry watches a boarder, not hostile, but alert. We've been filed in a category, and she's keeping her eye on the file. Cole is aware of her too, in his own way. He doesn't look at her directly. Direct attention isn't his style, but I've caught the shadow shifts when she enters a room. Small movements, involuntary, the darkness responding to her presence the way it responds to mine. Whatever the thread is, whatever it means, his shadows recognize it in Yuna, the same way they've recognized it in me. We exist in a triangle that nobody else can see. 3 points connected by lines drawn in a frequency only I can perceive, orbiting each other in a school full of people who have no idea what's forming in their midst. It's the 3rd night after Yuna's arrival when I hear it. I'm in my room. Past midnight. The map is open, it's always open, and the building has settled into its nighttime architecture of sleeping bodies and dim hallways and the slow mechanical breath of the furnace in the basement. Cole is in his room, wrapped in shadow. The 3rd-floor students are restless tonight, their auras flickering with the usual nocturnal disturbances. Bad dreams, insomnia, the general agitation of teenagers whose lives have given them plenty to stay awake about, and Yuna is in the gym. She goes every night now. I've watched the pattern form over the past few nights. She waits until the building quiets, until the last staff member finishes their rounds, until the hallways empty and the stairwells go still. Then she descends to the basement like a diver entering water, silent, focused, alone. She trains for exactly 90 minutes. Then she returns to her room and sleeps with the disciplined efficiency of someone who treats rest as another form of practice. I don't watch her train, not closely. It feels like a violation. Her time in the gym is private in a way that my gift doesn't care about, but I do. I track her position the way I track everyone's position, a low-level awareness that runs in the background of my perception. I know she's there. I know she's moving. I don't zoom in. Until the sound. It's not a sound I hear with my ears. My room is 2 floors above the basement, and the building's bones are thick enough to swallow most noise. What I feel is an impact, a shockwave of kinetic energy that registers in my spatial awareness as a sudden, violent displacement, something heavy moving very fast, and then something structural failing, a crack, a metallic shriek, a thud that I feel in my floorboards. And then Yuna's aura, which has been the controlled blaze I've come to expect from her nighttime sessions, does something new. It spikes not with exertion, but with fear. A burst of cold blue cutting through the reds and golds, the unmistakable signature of someone confronting a consequence they weren't prepared for. I'm out of bed before I've decided to move. The hallway is dark. The south stairwell is darker. I take the stairs barefoot, moving fast but quiet, guided by the map that shows me every step and every wall and the girl 2 floors below whose aura is cycling through fear and frustration and something that looks, from this distance, like grief. The gym door is open. I stop in the doorway, and I see it. The heavy bag is on the floor, not hanging from its chain, not swinging from an impact, not doing any of the things a heavy bag is supposed to do after someone hits it. It's on the floor, a 100-pound canvas cylinder lying on the cracked linoleum like a felled tree. And above it, still bolted to the ceiling bracket, the chain hangs empty. The bottom link, the one that connected the chain to the bag's mounting loop, has been sheared clean, not broken the way metal breaks when it fatigues and frays. Sheared, cut, as if something passed through it with enough force to treat hardened steel like paper. Yuna is standing over the bag. She's barefoot, wearing sweatpants and a tank top, her hair pulled back tight. Her right foot, the one she kicked with, is planted on the ground, and I can see in her health aura that it's completely fine. Not bruised, not swollen, not showing any sign that it just delivered enough force to sever a steel link. Her body absorbed the impact like it was nothing. The bag absorbed it differently. There's a depression in the canvas where her foot connected. A concave crater, the filling compressed into a shape that looks almost like a boot print pressed into wet sand. The stitching around the impact site has burst. Sand is leaking from the wound in a thin stream, pooling on the linoleum. She hasn't seen me. She's staring at the chain, at the sheared link, at the evidence of what she just did. And her aura is doing the thing I've seen in Cole's aura when his shadows move without permission, the particular anguish of someone whose body has betrayed them by being more than it should be. I should leave. This is her moment, her damage, her private reckoning with whatever is happening inside her. I have no right to stand in this doorway and witness a girl discovering, again, that she is too strong for the world she lives in. But the thread in her is humming at a frequency I can feel in my own chest, and it's pulling me forward the way Cole's thread pulled me toward his corner, and my gift is telling me something that overrides my instinct to retreat. She needs to not be alone for this. Yuna! She spins. Her body drops into a defensive stance so fast it blurs, weight low, hands up, every muscle coiled to strike. Her eyes find me in the doorway and I watch her cycle through recognition, assessment, and a cold calculation of threat that takes less than a second. The stance doesn't relax. Her aura pulls tight, the blaze contracting, closing off, armoring up.
What are you doing here?
Her voice is flat, controlled, the voice of someone who has practiced keeping emotion out of words that are full of it. I felt the impact, I say, from my room. Something shifts in her face, not softening. Yuna doesn't soften, but the calculation behind her eyes changes. She's reprocessing me, not as a witness who stumbled in by accident, but as something else. Someone whose presence in this doorway at midnight, 2 floors from the impact, implies capabilities that normal people don't have.
You felt it. From your room.
I feel a lot of things. Her eyes hold mine. Dark eyes, sharp and careful and giving away nothing that hasn't been vetted by whatever internal committee runs her emotional security. The stance is still ready. The blaze is still armored. But the thread, in the deepest layer of her aura, beneath the discipline and the fear and the carefully constructed walls, the thread is leaning toward me, the same way Cole's shadows lean, the same way my gift reaches for the frequency before I've decided to look.
The chain was rated for 1,000 pounds,
she says, quietly, not a boast, an indictment. She's reporting the evidence against herself. I can see that.
It's not rusted, it's not old. The link sheared clean.
I can see that too. Silence. The sand continues to leak from the bag in its thin, patient stream. The empty chain sways slightly, catching light from the single fluorescent tube that gives the gym its morgue. Quality illumination. Yuna looks at the bag, at the chain, at her foot, which did this and shows no mark. And then she looks at me, and something in the armor cracks. Not much. A hairline fracture, visible only because my gift lets me see at the resolution where hairline fractures live. But it's there.
This keeps happening. It keeps getting worse.
I step into the gym. I don't ask permission because asking would give her the option to say no, and she would say no, and then she'd be alone with a destroyed heavy bag and a fear she can't train her way out of. Help me clean this up, I say. She blinks. Of everything I could have said, questions about her strength, reassurances about not telling anyone, expressions of shock or concern, a practical instruction was not on her list. I can see the surprise in her aura. A small flare of something that isn't quite warmth, but isn't quite not. We work in silence. Yuna lifts the bag, lifts it one-handed, 100 pounds of sand and canvas held off the floor like a sack of groceries, and I grab the dustpan from the corner and sweep up the spilled sand. We can't rehang it. The sheared link is evidence of something no cover story can fully explain. But we can minimize the scene. The chain, I say, looking up at the empty hardware. We tell them it was rusted, old equipment, corroded link. The bag fell on its own.
Wait, it's not rusted?
I know, but rust is what people expect from a building like this. Nobody's going to send the link to a metallurgist. Una sets the bag against the wall. She looks at the chain again, at the clean-cut edge of the sheared link that tells the truth about what happened here. Then she looks at me.
You're covering for me. Why?
Yes, because the thread in your soul matches the thread in mine, and I don't know what that means yet, but I know it means something. Because the frequency you carry is the same frequency I've found in one other person in this building, and I'm starting to think it's not a coincidence. Because you're alone with something impossible, and I know what that feels like, and nobody should have to carry it by themselves. Because old equipment fails, I say. It happens. She studies me. The assessment runs for a long time, longer than any interaction we've had, longer than the brief exchanges in the hallway and the careful distances at meals. She's not just reading my words. She's reading my posture, my breathing, the steadiness of my gaze. She's applying 13 years of martial arts training to the question of whether I can be trusted. And the answer is taking time, because trust is not a muscle she exercises often.
Old equipment,
She says finally, testing the words. Rusted metal, bad maintenance, bound to happen, a beat. Then something happens that I will carry with me for a long time. Una Kwan, the girl made of discipline and control and walls built to withstand anything, exhales. Not a sigh, not a breath, an exhale. The kind that happens when a weight you've been holding shifts, just slightly, from one set of shoulders to two.
Thea, how did you feel it from your room?
I look at her standing in the dim gym, barefoot and dangerous, and carrying a secret that's been eating her alive. I think about Cole in his dark corner, about the shadow that reached toward me before he knew it could. I think about the thread, the same note, humming in both of them, humming in me. I feel a lot of things, I say again. I'll tell you about it. When you're ready. She doesn't push. A person who guards her own secrets understands the architecture of someone else's. She nods once, short, precise, the nod of a soldier acknowledging an order, and we leave the gym together. We don't talk on the stairs. We don't need to. Something has shifted between us, not friendship, not yet, but the thing that comes before friendship. The recognition that you and another person have touched the same fire and come away, marked by it in ways the unmarked world can't understand. At the second-floor landing, she turns toward her room. I turn toward mine.
Thea, thank you.
2 words, delivered with the same flat precision as everything she says, but underneath, in the layer only I can see, the thread is humming louder than I've ever heard it hum in her, not warmth. Something harder than warmth and more valuable. Respect. I go to my room. I lie in the dark. And the triangle that's been orbiting in silence for days has just drawn its first real line. The days after the gym change things, not dramatically. Una doesn't suddenly become warm or talkative or any of the things she's constitutionally incapable of being. But the distance between us shifts. Before the bag, she orbited the triangle from the outside. Aware of Cole and me, monitoring our positions but maintaining a perimeter that said, I see you but I'm not part of this. After the bag, the perimeter contracts. It starts small. She angles her body toward me in the cafeteria instead of toward the room, a minor adjustment nobody would notice unless they could read the architecture of human attention the way I can. The next morning, she eliminates the buffer table. She sits across from me, puts her tray down with the efficient precision of someone docking a ship, and eats without speaking. No greeting, no acknowledgement, just presence. The ceasefire version of companionship. I'm here, and I'm choosing to be here, and that's all the explanation you're getting. I don't push. Pushing Una is like pushing a wall. Technically possible, practically pointless, and likely to hurt your hands. So I eat my terrible eggs, and I let the silence be what it is, not empty, but inhabited. 2 people who've shared something in a midnight gym that neither of them has words for, sitting together because sitting apart has started to feel like a choice rather than a default. Cole notices. Of course he does. Cole notices everything from his corner, the way a nocturnal animal notices everything from its den. I feel his attention shift when Una sits down, the shadows under his table doing that unconscious lean they do when his focus moves. He doesn't come over. He watches. He catalogs. He files us in whatever system he uses to track the patterns of a world he observes but rarely enters. The morning after that, Una speaks. One sentence, delivered between bites of toast with the flat affect of someone reading a weather report.
No one's asked about the bag?
It's not relief. It's a status report. She's been monitoring the situation, checking whether anyone noticed the missing heavy bag, whether the empty chain hanging from the ceiling bracket has raised questions, whether our cover story needs activation. She's telling me, in the compressed language of someone who treats words like ammunition and doesn't waste rounds, that the thing we shared is still a live operation. Good, I say. Keep it that way.
I'm being careful down there.
4 words, and they carry more weight than the 100-pound bag she destroyed. She's telling me she's still training in the gym, still descending to the basement before dawn, still running forms and lifting weight, still negotiating with a body that doesn't understand the concept of enough. But she's pulling her strikes. She's holding the furnace in check. She's being careful, because now there's someone who knows what careful means and why it matters. And just like that, a pattern is established. Una sits with me at meals. We don't talk much. She's not a talker, and I've learned that silence between us is more honest than small talk. Sometimes she asks a practical question, where something is, when something happens, who to avoid. Sometimes I offer information unprompted. Voss is watching the hallways this morning, or Derek's group is loud today so the far table might be quieter. She absorbs each piece with the same tactical efficiency she brings to everything, and Cole watches. From his corner, through his shadows, with the quiet patience of someone who's spent his whole life on the outside of every group that's ever formed around him. I can feel the pull in his aura. The thread responding to both of us, the shadows leaning toward our table the way they lean toward me when I sit in his corner at night. He wants to cross the cafeteria. He's not ready. I don't tell Una about Cole's shadows. I don't tell Cole about Una's strength. Their secrets are their own. But one evening, sitting in his corner while the common room empties, I tell Cole the part that isn't a secret, the part that belongs to all of us. She carries the same thread, I say. Una, the same frequency as you and me. His aura deepens, the darkness stirs.
Another one,
He says. Not a question, and then, quietly,
how many more?
12 days at Millhaven, 3 threads, and I'm waiting for something without knowing what.